Hi, I am Jennifer Purcell, and welcome to my podcast, Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss, discover, and learn more about the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD and other learning challenges. I do have a website for this podcast, and it is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account for the podcast. They are all under the same name, which is Living with NLD. I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, which can be found by Googling the title of the podcast, which is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. I would like to tell you about a nonprofit that I use for my research for this podcast. It is called the NVLD Project, and I use their blog for my research. They are a nonprofit that is based in New York and is trying to get NVLD back on the DSM, and they provide many resources for people with NVLD on their website. I'll provide you with the website for them in the podcast description. All proceeds from the ads on this podcast will be donated towards the NVLD project. Please feel free to explore the other topics on the podcast, and hopefully you will learn something new from them. I hope you enjoy today's episodes. Around by the sales piece and the pressure. And I said they were even making fun of me when I was trying the frames on with no prescription. And I was like, I had to look really closely in the mirror to see if I even liked it because I couldn't see it.
Yes, that makes sense.
And then when they did see what my prescription was, they try to backtrack and be like, oh, you're not that blind. But then it was like, I'm thinking in my mind, that doesn't really help. Um, and then I remember when I called them back to cancel the order, because I knew I could get something cheaper at Costco. I was going to try that. Um, and I knew they would accept my insurance, even though they said at Sharp that they wouldn't. Mom knew that they would. And when I called them back and I was talking to the guy who helped me, he was like, well, I don't care what mommy says. She doesn't know enough about your insurance. And my mom heard that.
That's
And
so rude.
yeah, it was very rude. She took the phone from me and was like, this is mommy. Yes, I do know enough about her insurance. Costco does take it. And I don't like you're being very rude. I think she did say that. And I wrote up a complaint to his boss about his behavior, and I don't know if he got fired, but I know he got a serious talking to about it.
Good.
And I did get the money back, and they said, if you want to come back, we'll give you a discount. I'm like, honestly, I'm not going to come back, but thank you.
Good for you, though.
Um,
You stood up for yourself.
yeah, I tried to. I mean, and when I went to Costco, I told them about my bad experience, and they were very nice. They actually even asked what my budget was, and they tried to help me find some good glasses because I wanted two pairs, one sunglasses and one regular.
Hmm.
And I got two for the price of one because they had a discount going on.
Oh, great.
So it was worth it, even though it was a bad experience. I think it was worth getting there and learning from it.
Definitely.
Um, yeah. Um, so actually, we were already talking about this one, but if you want to mention more about how your family or friends help with your
Sure.
challenges.
My mom went the extra mile for me. Like, she really wanted me to fit in, and I didn't know anything about fashion. And I know
Hmm.
younger, but when you're growing up in the 80s on Long Island, oh my God, there's so much pressure to be fashionable and fit in.
Yeah.
So she would buy me like all the latest styles. And because I hated shopping and found it overwhelming, she would go to the stores and bring clothes home for me to try on.
Mm,
Really like her little princess. and I was wear the latest styles to school. It was important to her that I fit in,
Mhm.
even though I had such crazy curly hair, and in those days that was not fitting in no matter what. Straight and feathered hair, you know. So there was that. Um, there were so many things. It was a
Yeah.
hard place to fit in. It was I joke around and I call it Beverly Hills 90210 East.
That's cute. Um, yeah, I mean, uh, for me, my mom, like I was saying, she did some research, but she also, when I was in college, I I had accommodations from college, like extended time, taking the test in a room with fewer distractions and um, audio textbooks and being able to record my lectures. But I also had my mom help me with proofreading and editing all my essays, which was a lot as a sociology major.
Okay.
Basically, every assignment was an essay. Um, and so she helped me with that because she knew I wasn't very good at writing. Um, and I actually I chuckle because I remember she came up with um, she came up with something called the stairs of logic. And basically, it was a way for me to think about an essay in a logical way of how to build it and make it sound like it was in the right order, and had a good argument to it,
Hmm.
kind of like a thesis statement does. And that was very helpful for me because I remember her saying many times, okay, what would be the stairs of logic for this paragraph or for this essay? Um, and another term we came up with was, okay, don't look at the ladybugs or the leaves in the forest. Let's look at the trees or branches because she knows NLD brains tend to focus on the details, not the big picture, right?
Right, that's part of the social issues as well.
Yeah, true.
I always had a lot of trouble with math and science. In fact, I was
Hmm.
able to get around those requirements in college. I mean, I took environmental studies as my science, but I was always a gifted writer. In fact, I taught writing and I tutored writing, and those things came very, very easily to me. But like I said, I struggled so much with math that it was almost like, okay, you were given this gift because this thing you didn't have it at all, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, for me, I was math was challenging for me too. I remember in not so much in college, but more in high school and middle school. If if I got so frustrated, I would start crying with math and with writing. Um, Sometimes that happened in college with writing. Um, and I remember the way my mom and I did the writing, we used Google Drive and we used FaceTime to go over it, because she was in San Diego and I was up in Berkeley. And even though she was only doing that for 2 years, it felt like 4 years for her. Um, and what was kind of cute though was by the time I graduated, and when they went to my graduation ceremonies for not just for the whole college, but for the major as well. When she was listening to one of the valedictorians or honor positions for the students speak, she could actually get some of the inside jokes because she remembered some of the authors or people I was reading for those classes. Um, so that was kind of cool for her, I think.
That is cool. And that was something that bonded you to even more also.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that was good for her. Um,
How are you with note taking?
with note taking, that's a good question. I was, I noticed that when I was writing notes, um, I tend to, I was trying to write everything down and I didn't know what was important to write down.
Right, there's that forest and trees thing again.
hmm So, I, what I usually did was when I had the audio of the lectures, um, I would use that more than typing notes or writing notes. I tried to do bullet points. If I heard the teacher say it over and over, I knew it was important, then I would type it out. And when it came for like writing an essay or studying for exam, I would go back over my notes and listen to the audio as well. And that helped actually because I remember when I got the results from the test for my diagnosis that they said you're out of your visual, audio, and kinesthetic memory, your audio is your best.
Okay, we're opposite because I needed to be looking and reading the text, but my roommate who had dyslexia would record the lectures. That never
hmm
did anything for me. I would have to be looking at something.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, audio was my best, and then kinesthetic, and then visual was the worst.
Well, see if you put us together, we're a genius.
There you go. That's one way to think about it. Yeah. Um, and remember when they said, because I think I've only interviewed one other person who, at least on the podcast, about this, but um, they said your audio memory is actually on the 99th percentile, and that's as high as it goes. I'm like, wow, okay. Um, and I interviewed, I have interviewed one other person who has that ranking as well. Um, and for me, like, I share that not in terms of bragging, but just in terms of, okay, I know this about myself. I can use that to my advantage.
Right, of course. But
Yeah.
it's very consistent for me though, because if I ever had to identify anyone in a lineup, that poor person, that innocent person would be in jail. First
Mm,
of all. And then I do have great auditory memory for certain things like music.
hmm
I can identify when I was two, my mom and I would watch the old Name That Tune show together. And I would freak her out because I'd be 2 years old and I could name every song in like a quarter of a note. And I
Right.
very freaky memory. Like I'll remember things from 50 years ago, like details about what someone said or what the number one song was. And every
hmm
lyric to every song for the last like 50 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can relate to that too. I'm also very good with memorizing song lyrics. I can listen to a song maybe once or twice and already have it memorized.
Wow.
Um, and also pretty true with numbers or list of things. Um, and also, like when you were saying the random memories, I remember this is a random one for me. I can remember the first day I wore contact lenses, what I was wearing, and what day of the week it was, and who I was hanging out with at that time.
That's amazing.
Thank you. I mean, that just gives a good example of, I remember now it was in May. I don't remember the exact date now, but I think it was a Saturday, um, Friday or Saturday. And I know I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt I don't have anymore because it was when I was 13. Um, and I don't have the friend I have anymore either. But that kind of memory, that detailed, is unique, I think.
I can remember that, but I can't remember where I put my keys 2 minutes ago.
I have moments like that too. I will, um, one of my friends, her name's Fabiola, and she's also neurodivergent. She believes she has ADHD. Um, and sometimes when she and I hang out, she also has chronic migraines. And we will both say to each other, why did we want to go to this place? Like, what did we want to do? And we're like, wait a second. Because we're like, okay, we're just having a brain fart here or brain fog.
That reminds me
Um,
of Betty White. Somebody asked Betty White a few years before she died how she stayed in such great shape. She said,
yeah,
I have an enormous house and a terrible memory.
yeah, yeah. I know for me, if I don't um, write something down, like for work as a to-do list, I'm not going to remember it.
Yeah.
So what I started doing, excuse me, I don't have a physical to-do list that I write down because I don't have a very good handwriting because of NLD, but I do have one on my computer that I type out. But lately, in the probably last year and a half or so, I actually will take my phone because I have the same app on my phone. I will dictate to it what task I want it to do
Mhm.
because again, I'm using my audio memory and I will remember it better than I would if I just typed it.
Yeah.
Of course, I read back over it because sometimes the microphone doesn't get the words right, especially if you talk too fast.
Yeah, it can have things that are kind of funny in there sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
I use
um,
my phone calendar a lot, especially for my clients, because I don't want to forget anyone, of course. So thank goodness for the calendar phone and also the notes section, like if I'm going shopping and I want to remember what to get.
right. Yeah, I do use that too. Actually, I have a app on my phone for specifically for grocery shopping and for recipes. Um, that my mom introduced me to. Actually, there's two that she introduced me to. One is called Paprika, like the spice, and then other one is Any List. Paprika is for recipes, and it helps you scale them, and it does the math for you, which was
Oh,
helpful,
good. Yes.
especially when I was cooking for. When I was in college, I lived in one of the Berkeley co-ops, and I lived in the biggest one and had 140 students living there. And one of the chores was to cook for the students. And you had four other people helping you. But to scale a recipe for 140 people, that's hard math to do, even if
Very.
you're good at it, I would say.
And that's a lot of people to cook for. Wow.
Yeah. So you learn how to cook things you're not going to burn, hopefully. And it was fun though, because you get to learn how to cook different things for that many people. Um, and then Any List is the one I use for groceries because you can create a list in there um, and actually it has recipes in there too that you can say, okay, I want to cook this recipe on this day and these are the groceries I need from it, add it to my list.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. That one is actually free. Paprika isn't anymore. I think it's like $5, but that's not too much.
No, it's not bad.
Um, but is there anything, sorry, is there something you wish the world knew about NLD?
I wish the world knew about NLD.
True. That, yeah.
We could thank Chris Rock for giving us, a little bit of
Hmm.
publicity there. I felt guilty when he came out with it because I felt like, oh, that's great. And then I thought, wait a minute, you're cheering on somebody having a disability. What is wrong with you, girl?
Mm,
But then I thought, okay, well, he's, putting a famous face to it.
right.
And that's something to be thankful for. Not that he struggles with it, but that he's coming out with it and letting the world know about it.
Yes. Yeah. I would agree with that. I felt the same way when I heard about him. I remember doing an episode about that. Um, and I still marvel and dream about interviewing him someday about it,
Yeah.
because it would be like you said, he puts a popular face to it, and so would Tim Walz's son, who was running for vice president with Kamala Harris. He has NLD.
Oh, he does? I thought he had Asperger's. Okay.
He has actually more. He has NLD, an anxiety disorder, and uh, I think he also had an emotional one as well. There were
Oh,
three different
right.
ones.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, but when I learned about that, I was trying to reach out to him too, but that was during the um, election process, and I think that didn't really work out because of that timing. But maybe now it would be different.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, I think for me,
And he was made fun of terribly
yeah,
also.
he was made fun of. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, which is unfortunate. Um, I think for me, usually when I think about this question, I often wish people knew that it actually existed because of it not being in the DSM and not having one agreed upon definition for it. It
Yeah,
feels like, sorry.
it's invalidating.
Right, it is invalidating. Yeah. It feels, yeah, it does feel invalidating, and it feels like, hello, it's real.
Yeah.
We have people with it even though it's not as many people as Asperger's or autism or
I think because of that, if you come across as
Mhm.
neurotypical, plus if people think you're fairly intelligent,
Mm,
look at you like, what's wrong with you? Why can't
mhm.
this simple thing? Or why are you, in my case, why are you so clumsy all the time? Or, and they
Mhm.
expect it to do things that it's almost like expecting a blind person to see.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point because I've worked on my clumsiness, but I was also very clumsy. And for me, because I've do a lot of sports, I run, I ski, I bike, I did a martial art, and I do Pilates. I've made myself, I've chosen sports I knew what would be challenging for myself, but I think well, actually, most of them I chose before I knew about NLD. But later on, I kept doing them even when I knew about NLD. And I remember my mom saying to me when she learned about the NLD, and she looked at how good I was at the sports I did, like skiing and running. She was surprised how good I was because of it. And I think that was because for me, and maybe this is true for you or for other people listening, I'm very determined when I am challenged at something. I don't want to give up. I want to try to work at it and see if I can make it uh, easier in some way for me.
Mhm.
And I think that's part of the reason I started the podcast to share about my challenges and how I combat them.
That's great. And I really admire you with the sports. I mean, I know when I've
Thank
taken
you.
occasional exercise class, I always go to the back of the room because I don't want to be seen, but somehow
Mm.
I always end up in the front of the room. For me, my problem
Yeah.
is that sometimes I keep going and going and going when I should give up, not because I'm a quitter, but for example, for me, with the driving,
Hmm.
realistically, it just wouldn't be safe for me. So at a certain point, I had to say, you know what? I have to just recognize this is something I'm not going to be able to do. That doesn't mean I'm a quitter. It just means for me, I was being realistic. For other people,
Yeah.
obviously, it's not unrealistic to drive.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good distinction with that. Like I said earlier with driving for me, I'm taking a break. I'm not giving up.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's different for you because obviously you're able to do it overall.
Right. Yeah. I've I would say I've gone through many lessons for it, and it still is challenging. I actually remember I remember when I was learning how to drive the first time when I was 17 and a half. And I was learning how to drive my dad's pickup truck. Um, and that got pretty easy because of it being a big car. And then I think as I got used to that, then I went to a smaller car to get used to that car. But I remember now when I went back to driving after so much of a break, it felt it felt weird and it felt foreign because it was like, okay, now I'm like I feel like I'm relearning again, actually. Um, but what I did was I was practicing in my friend's car with her because I knew she was a good driver and she knew about my LD and she was also neurodivergent. And her car was easy to drive actually. But I also gave myself a refresher course with the rules of the road by doing the online exam. And I went through that several times. And I did an in-person exam with a driver's instructor too. And that made me feel better because he said, "You're actually a pretty good driver, even though you feel like you have these challenges.
Mhm.
You do pretty good." I'm like, "Okay, thank you."
It might have made you a better driver than your average person because you also had to overcompensate, so you're very possibly
hmm
better than your average driver.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's true because you're right. I did have to overcompensate, and because of the car accidents I've had, I'm more cautious.
Yeah,
Um, and know how to look for things that would cause an accident. I think that some people might not know what to look for.
exactly. Like when because of the social skills that I used to have,
hmm
that I learned, when I see people, many of them neurotypical, making like social faux pas, it feels like nails on a chalkboard to me. It feels so
mm
cringe.
hmm
Oh my God. It's just hard for me to witness.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Um, I was actually gonna ask you for your work that you do as a therapist, what got you into that field?
Well, because therapy helped me so much when I was growing up, I
hmm
wanted to do it, but in New York, there was no license for mental health counseling until 2005.
Mm.
So I had my master's degree way back in 1994. I would
hmm
I went straight from college to NYU for grad school. But like I said, there was no license back then for doing therapy. So I did work in a lot
hmm
of other settings. I did college counseling. I did a lot of vocational work with adults with special needs. I did a lot of job development and job coaching, tutoring. I was an adjunct professor. I did a lot of work like that.
hmm
Um, but it was something I always wanted to do. Like I said, the license just didn't exist. I was raising my kids. And then during the pandemic, when virtual therapy became more of a thing, I took that as an opportunity and I got everything together, my liability insurance and everything that I needed. And I started doing it.
Mm. That makes sense to me.
I mean, I hate that I had to take advantage of a tragedy like the pandemic,
Right.
but I love what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I've I've thought about being a therapist myself, because done a, I've had a lot of therapy as well. But um, when I think about having to go back to school for it, I'm not.
sure. Part of me isn't sure if I want to go back to school for it,
Well,
um, because of remembering how challenging college was for me.
I understand.
Um, so I guess I'm a little hesitant in that part, and I would need to save money for it. Um,
It's a lot more difficult now also.
mhm,
Back because there was no licensing exam and I was grandfathered in,
mm,
which has its ups and downs. The upside is that I don't have to take the test. The downside is that I had to kind of teach myself because I didn't have the supervised hours that are now required. So
mhm,
quite have the education that younger people are having. That doesn't mean I'm less qualified. It just means I had to kind of teach myself some of the things that I didn't learn because I graduated in 1994.
mhm. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I I can relate to that for me. I work in the tech field. I didn't go to college for that. And
Right.
I taught myself most of what I know, except for some things that my mom taught me. Um, and um, I just did that by looking up tutorials for the programs and, went over and over them until I got it. Um, but yeah, that makes sense.
It's impressive that you did that.
Thanks. I mean, I, I think I was driven to do. Hopefully, what you can do with these episodes on this podcast, Living with Invisible Learning Challenge, I would like to challenge you to journal about the episodes and just see what you learn from them. Or you can share about the episodes with your friends and family and see what they can learn from them. And as always, I will post the links to the articles that I use in the description of the podcasts. And please let me know if you know somebody who you think would want to be interviewed on this podcast, or if you yourself would want to be interviewed. Please email me. I have my email on my website, and I also have it pretty much pretty accessible on Facebook and Instagram through messaging as well. So you can get in contact with me in those ways.